We finally did it.
We did it, Holmes. We did it.
So, Josh, thank you for being the first guest. Much appreciated. Um, we go back, I think, been 20 years since we've
Oh,
been friends,
yeah,
almost.
it's 20 years.
20 years.
My God, that's a long time.
That's
Now
a
that you
long
say it like
time.
that.
So, the interesting thing to just introduce you is I mean, you grew up in Saudi, and then we didn't meet in Saudi. We met in Connecticut at boarding school, uh,
You can.
in Kent, which was kind of crazy. It was you, Samir,
Mac,
Mahmoud,
Pete,
Pete, and who else? No, but
Moose.
who was with you in
Oh, in
Saudi?
in my room.
In Saudi, no, growing up.
Oh,
Samir,
yeah, just Mac and Samir.
and there was one more guy.
Oh, Ryan Sowers.
Ryan, yes, dear boy.
Sowers. Sow
Yeah,
dog.
that was. So then, obviously, hope you graduated, you went to university, and you started your career. Can you tell us a little bit about your career?
Yeah, I'm in advertising. I cut my teeth in New York. We're working at a couple agencies there for about eight years before I moved to LA, which is where you and I got to hang out again for a
Yeah,
couple more years there, and then moved to Houston back in 2017 to be a little closer to family. My wife and I had our oldest daughter, 2 years old now, tomorrow. And we decided, Houston would be a good place to raise her, be close to not only my family, but my wife's family too.
right. Very nice.
Yeah,
And now
yeah.
you're into startup life, right?
I'm in both. I'm still in the advertising world, but also startup life as well. Yep,
Can
two
you tell
jobs.
us a little bit about about the startup?
The startup Palby, it's a customized pet food subscription brand. It's called Palby, and the idea, the concept at a high level is that we create customized nutrition plans for your dog delivered to you on a monthly basis in single serve pouches. So if for 30 pouches a day for your dog, each one of those pouches is eco-friendly and compostable.
Okay.
And the idea is that we're trying to help solve for the problem. We're taking the guesswork essentially out of feeding your dog. So, we're eliminating the over and under feeding issue, which causes roughly 60% of dogs in America to be overweight or obese, which ultimately leads to a shorter lifespan
Right.
for your dog and longer and more increased visits to the vet, for example, costing thousands of dollars in the long run. So we're trying to attempt to solve those issues so that pets and pet parents can live longer, happier lives together.
Nothing for cats yet, right?
Nothing for cats yet, but that's definitely it's on the horizon.
Yeah, because I have a fit cat and I have a little overweight cat, so
Right.
I
Well,
know I know the issue.
like the funny thing about kids is that they only eat what they eat when they're hungry, right? And they eat
Right.
as much as they are to be hungry. Dogs and cats, they're not the same as you and I. They only eat what you feed them,
Yeah.
and they'll eat whatever you feed them. So the idea is to take that guesswork out, right, and
Yeah.
provide them give them what they need, and that's how we do it at Palby. Was that we create that we understand what your pet needs from a nutrition standpoint, and we only give them that.
That's very good. That's interesting, and obviously we wish you all the best. We know
Thank
how
you.
hard it can get with startup, but I think you're onto something useful and special. So, uh,
Appreciate it, man.
no, hopefully, what goes well. So, Josh, tell us. I mean, we were friends, and then obviously you started your career and you got married, and then you became a father for the first time, and then hope a second time now recently with your youngest son. Tell
Hmm.
us, did you notice any change in your personality or the way you view life from when you were, you know, young kid, got married to then becoming a father?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's very obvious the changes, I guess, in your lifestyle as far
Yeah,
as when you have kids and when you don't, right? Before you have kids, everything is about you
yeah,
selfishly, not whether that's a good or bad thing. And then when you have kids, everything is about them.
right.
And that is probably the biggest adjustment, I think, for me as a parent, is just understanding that it's not about me anymore necessarily. It's about the family,
Right.
right? And even before then, getting married, it was more about a partnership, right? And it still is a partnership today, in the fact that it's not just about the kids; it's about us,
Right.
us not versus the kids, but us on the same team.
Right. Yes. Yes. It's a team. Yeah.
Yeah, no. So like a lot of things have changed, man. It's been a trip, but it's a good one.
I mean, it's still starting, and
Yeah.
it never ends. Um, and so that's interesting that you said, it's about the kids, more the decisions more about the kids. But what specifically do you think is more about the kids, that really has changed instead of, being about you or, as
Well,
the partnership?
I think for us, I mean, the biggest thing that's changed is that our ability, we run a pretty consistent um, operation, the Shaner household, right? Our
Right.
kids are very, we have to, in order for us to make time for ourselves and to make time for our lives and our work and everything else that we do outside of raising kids, we need to make sure that they're on schedules. So schedules are very important. Routine is extremely important. So I guess one of those shifts from when before we had kids was that we didn't really have like a structured regimental program on a daily basis, but now we do, right? Every morning, every morning I actually have to get up at 5:30, so
Okay.
that I can fit in some time for myself, exercise, meditate, do work if I need to, and then I'm up feeding my daughter, getting my daughter up at 7 o'clock, taking the dog for a walk with her, feeding her, getting the day ready, and while my wife is taking care of the 9 week old, and the interesting part is I guess like the shift when introducing a new kid, right, forces us to like rethink our scheduling and figure out how to optimize that scheduling based on the new child and its need and his need to kind of his needs of napping and wake
Right.
time and all that. So it's been a very it's it's almost like we're treating it like it's a project, and you have like this project, you got to manage your project accordingly, right? And so that's something that comes naturally, I think, to Ashley and myself. So we're doing a pretty good job of that.
Well, so Josh, were you, obviously I don't think there's one right or wrong way of parenting, and each household kind of approaches, kind of raising kids in a different way. I don't believe in there's a one cut way to do something. There's many different, there's so many different moving parts that, it's almost that you have to kind of go with the, with these things.
Mm-hmm.
But for you, did you, when you were first having hopefully your first child, did you stock up on books? Did you kind of read up on things? Did you ask your parents? Like, how did you approach, getting ready for your first kid?
Well, Ashley definitely read a lot of books, and
Okay.
I sort of learned what I needed to learn or what she
Right.
thought I needed to learn through
Okay.
osmosis and
Right.
note taking. Right.
Right.
She was, I think, first and foremost, like we wanted to make sure that the information that we were getting was current and conducive and helpful for Evie and Archer in the long run. So I think,
Right.
yeah, a lot of education went into, and my wife was very big into natural births,
Okay.
right? So she wanted to make sure that her experience, especially with the first child, was perfect, right? And that she
Okay.
was able to deliver fully natural, you know, including like, skin to skin contact immediately and all that stuff, and not having an epidural or anything for that matter. So she read up a lot about pregnancy and about raising your kid, the first couple of years. So yeah, we did a lot of research. I think one thing that we believe is that you're born innocent and pure in a way, right? And
Yes.
then your
Well,
parents in the outside world tend to screw you up a little bit. And so
yeah.
we're trying to avoid that as much as we possibly can, like any good, I
Yeah.
think like any good parent wants to let their kids start off on a clean slate. So that's important to us that we understand, I guess, the spots, the places where we can impact their lives in a positive way and try to remove ourselves from the
Right.
negative ways.
That's a good way of obviously looking at it. Um,
Yeah.
so obviously, like when we discussed, we were talking about, how, and when we started SKIPYDOO and what was my motive behind it. And I think the motive for me was, in this world, as you said, everything is, you're always preoccupied, and technology unfortunately takes a lot of our lives, and I'm guilty of that as well. So I wanted kind of a fun, organic way, an inexpensive way to kind of connect with my kids. Uh, and, I did that through, playing with them and creating games. So, I know you spoke about a schedule for Evie, and hopefully as, the little one grows up, there's going to be a schedule for him. But where do you fit in like play or organic play for Evie? Where does that fit in? Is there a specific time, or is it just, just out of the blue?
I think, well, on the weekends it's sort of organic. I feel
Okay.
like when it comes to the weekends, we just play
Feel
when
like,
she wants to play, right?
right.
Ideally, we want to exercise. We don't. First of all, we don't actually let her look at technology that
Very good.
much. She
Very
gets
good.
15 minutes in the morning to watch her show while I
Okay.
prep her breakfast, and then
Okay.
after that, it's all just books and toys and
Right.
going to the park and walks and feeding ducks and what have you. So
Very
yeah,
nice.
the weekends, unfortunately, my job keeps me in my seat, and on the phone with clients and internally from 9 to 6.
Right.
So I only get to really spend the hours of 6 and 7:30 before she goes takes a nap with her in the
Right.
afternoons, right? So most of that time is prepping for dinner, letting her play in her little kitchen that she's got next to the
Very
kitchen,
nice.
and yeah, and then we play in the bath, right? So that's my scheduled time to play with Evie. I guess is in the bath. Archer, whenever I can, get a couple minutes of tummy time in with him. But on the weekends, it's very unstructured. We like to do whatever she wants to do in the day. We ask her whether or not if she wants to go to the pool, if she wants to go walk to the park and feed the ducks, or if she wants to go look at the butterfly, whatever. So it's like very unstructured, I think, on weekends as much as we can be.
So I gather she likes, like my daughter, she has multiple kitchens. And all our actual kitchen stuff is in her little kitchen. So I have to go to the kitchen to find stuff. So what do you think her kind of natural play is? Like what is, if you let her, loose and say, do whatever you want, this is playtime, what do you think she gravitates more towards?
Books.
Books?
That's her thing. She loves reading books. And she's got this little set of like little people. I don't know if you know what these are, but they're like little plastic
Yes,
figurines.
yes, yeah.
Yeah, she just likes to play with those little plastic figurines in their house or in the farm. So like
Right,
those are the two things that I think she loves to do is just books, her little people. But books I think is first always. And
right.
then it's comes and then like little people, toys and blocks and what have you.
That's pretty
Yeah.
cool. So if
Yeah.
you look, like we created something called like a play personality, and I
Oh,
think
cool.
yeah, she might fall into there is obviously the creator, which uses imagination that obviously comes from books, and there is storyteller, and that's really where a lot of people like reading books and kind of then just put a story to the games that they play. So I'm
Mm.
guessing these characters that she uses, there's a story behind, right? Her little story, but there's a story behind it.
Yeah, I mean, actually, when you think about it that way, it's definitely something I think she gravitates to. Now that she's coming into her own personality, and she has more of an imagination.
Right?
Yeah, you can see that coming out that she's like playing out a story in her mind and with these little people and stuff. And
Yeah, I mean,
actually, sometimes she takes the stories from the books and she uses it to play with the little kids or the little people, whatever you call
obviously
it. So,
there'll be improvisations, which is, what you want, right? You don't want copy paste.
right, exactly.
Do you, I know when you're working, right, you're really focused, but when she's playing, do you kind of just like put an ear towards like what is the story about, what is the, when she's playing with these things, can you just kind of make note of it? Do you like just, I want to listen in, like what is going on today?
I mean, she not really.
Okay.
I probably should as a dad, but I mean, as much as I can, when I catch it peripherally, you can tell
Yes, that's what
that
I'm
she's
saying. Yeah.
creating that story. Yeah, and so sometimes you catch it and you find it interesting that she's saying something about how she wants her little people to sit in the chairs and how she wants the mommy to watch them, and like you're just like, what's going on in that head of hers? And
Yeah, yeah, it's
yeah.
it's fun. And I think that the interesting part, obviously, as a dad, Josh, is how do you feel when you like just let loose and play with her, like Do you feel like as a kid before, and you feel kind of all guards are down, and you feel relaxed, and kind of like the world means nothing. This is just really perfect.
Sometimes. I mean, sometimes when we're like, let me put it this way: when it's not related to toys, I
Right.
typically, I typically will be fully in the moment with her in the present, and like playing at the park or going on a bike ride or playing in the pool or
Right.
whatever it is that we're doing. But when it comes to toys, it's like it's difficult for me to be. I'm like, this is a boring toy. I mean,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
like
no, I
reading books too,
understand.
but like
Yeah,
I don't know what you're doing with your like it's just like but so yeah, I mean, no, I mean, as much as any, I think, as any
as
dad out
any dad.
there,
Yeah, yeah.
right? I mean,
I'm with you. I'm not big on the with my little one with the doll toys. I tell her, listen, anything, we play anything, just not the dolls. I'm not, I'm not a big fan of, but other stuff, yeah, no, I agree with you. And growing up, Josh, what was your kind of, play? I know you used to play lacrosse, I think, or sports as you in Kent, was it?
yeah, I mean, I played a lot of sports. I did in Saudi, it was mostly swimming,
Right.
ironically.
Okay.
But my play was outside. I barely spent much time
Anything,
indoors.
anything
I mean,
outside.
yeah, anything outside, anything you could do to yeah. I used to have a bunch of little cars that I would play with my friends and stuff, and crash them into things, and little
Right.
green men, little army men that I would set up and have like fake battles and stuff. So outside, man, I lived outside.
Well, I mean, I see that in your personality now. You still kind of live outside, when we're on this chat, you have these great kind of, you're the Hawaii man. Anything that we need to know about Hawaii, outdoors, you kind of know what it is. And I think you continue when you were in LA, I used to kind of connect, and you said, bike rides, hikes, exploration. Same thing now in Houston. So I think that's your kind of go-to, thing, stress, whatever. This is what kind of keeps you sane in a way, no? Just
Yeah, out in the nature for sure, as much as we possibly can. Houston has taken that away from us a little bit, but we make do.
and you came from a multicultural background, right? As a family, and then you grew up in Saudi, then you came to Kent, and you went on,
Hmm.
you met different people from different places, different cultures, and you were very accepting. How do you think, what would you think, like, for your kids or kids in general, like what would be your way of kind of introducing them to like multicultural, so when they grow up, it's like they understand it, they accept it, they love it, they want to experience new cultures and stuff.
What are we gonna do? What are
I
we
mean,
trying to do to?
what do you kind of tactics or plans, or
I mean, it's tough to say, really. I think travel as much as possible plays a big part of it, and surrounding
right,
yourself with different cultures and different
right,
peoples is really what I think helps you identify everyone as the same,
right.
and the pigment of someone's skin makes no difference, right? And at the same
Absolutely.
time, like we actually just got her like uh, a doll. I think it's a brown doll,
Right.
just because we wanted to make sure that like, hey, while there are no, that, it's just making sure that she, as a kid, she doesn't have these biases or anything like that.
Absolutely.
Bias is taught, which is sad, but we want to make sure that she grows up,
It stays that way.
yeah, she stays that way, right?
It's like if you go to a playground, kids from all over are playing at that playground. Kids, they have no, there's no concept of something's different. They just
No,
play. It's just, it's as beautiful as you can see.
it's
Um,
innocent.
it's innocent. And I think one way, and I want to, ask you about this, is one way for my kids to kind of understand that I'm glad, like, we're here in the US, and when they go to school, there are different cultures there, and different traditions, which is great, and I kind of learned from them, what's going on. But one way, I was thinking of doing this is kind of through maybe a digital pen pal with my kids, and kids from all over the world, where you kind of, like, if Siraj talked to Evie, if say every month, once or twice or whatever, they would bring each one into their world, and
Yeah,
kind of
I think that's great.
they would organically kind of learn from each other, what's going on, and
Yeah,
different
I love that.
different traditions, and so forth. Um, would that how do you think that would, you know, would you, as a dad, would you be like for it, against it?
Yeah, I would absolutely be for it. I mean, I think it's a really smart idea to get your, you know, kids early on exposed to different cultures and different peoples of the world, you know. So if you're really talking about, I mean, if you're really talking about like extending this globally, you know, and just letting two kids talk to each other, you know, I think it's great. I mean, even Siraj, you know, is the example, could teach Evie stuff, and I'm sure Evie could teach him.
Of
So
course.
yeah.
I hope she would teach him to read more, right? All right, Josh, thank you so much. It's been great. Thank you for the first, for being our first guest. And hopefully we'll connect soon. And good luck with everything. And we'll definitely catch up.
Appreciate it, man. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks,
Thanks
man.
for having me on your show.
No, thanks so much, man.